Welcome back to the podcast. I'm joined by Ed. So Ed is a guy I found online after he did a wonderful trip cycling 10,000 miles from England to Australia. So hello, Ed.
Hello, Josh. Hello.
I'm glad to have you on. It's great to have the chance to chat to you. I haven't really delved deeper into it because I wanted to hear it firsthand from you. So give us a little bit about you and how this sort of started.
Yeah, sure. So, the whole thing started literally, and it's kind of a funny start, but it started because of my mum initially. Like, I tracked it back and back and back, and initially it's 100% my mum that triggered this whole desire to want to cycle to the other side of the world. So what initially it was I wanted to cycle from my house at university. So I went to uni in Bournemouth, and I live in Basingstoke. So I wanted to cycle from Bournemouth to Basingstoke, and my mum literally was like, "That's impossible. You can't do that. That's ridiculous." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna prove you wrong, mum. You know." Um, so yeah, I literally just cycled home. It was really hard. It was freaking hard. It was so difficult. Um, and yeah, I did it though. I did it, and I thought, man, imagine if you did this every day, but just kept going. And could I sustain myself doing this? And I started googling it, researching it, and yeah, sort of discovered cycle touring and was like, wow, this is actually a thing. Um, so yeah, I then also did what did I do then? Oh yeah, I planned like a trip from Rome to England, and then I did like a trip around South England, and a trip to Cornwall, and I kind of realized that this is an awesome way to see the world. Like you get to see the landscape like transition and really be amongst things. You're not like flying above it and looking down on it. You're like fully engulfed in it, and just yeah, it's just such a like sensory experience. It's not like being in a car where you can't feel the wind or can't hear the outside world. So yeah, I just sort of took to it. I really love it. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what initially got me into it. But I also just wanted to learn about the world and also raise money for charity, which yeah, just went hand in hand with the adventure as well.
So you had these sort of like, your mum spurred you on, you've done this trip and it's sort of built into bigger and bigger things. So it's interesting, you talk about a lot of the things that, are super appealing about cycle touring. Did you sort of just feel like, oh, we want to just stretch that out more and more towards eventually Australia?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, the reason I chose Australia is because it's, I mean, arguably the hardest point to reach, or maybe not the hardest point, but like, I don't know, it's like the furthest point away that you can still reach on land. And yeah, I really wanted to do the whole thing by bike. Um, but yeah, there were like points where I had to take like a really short train journey or something to go under a mountain pass or whatever. But I wasn't really in it for the challenge. I was in it more for the adventure, and like the journey, less so much about like the destination. But yeah, I just really wanted to do something with my sort of young sort of well, I mean, I still have that young spirit that just wants to get out and be amongst the world. I've never liked really being in my comfort zone that much. So yeah, it was just the perfect opportunity to really like dive into a true adventure. At least that's how I saw it and still see it. So yeah.
So you're sort of got this idea in mind. How did that first idea come into your head, and sort of how did you prepare beforehand? What was the sort of stuff on the build up?
So that's a good question. So when was the moment that I yeah, do you mean like the very moment that I sort of decided that I was going to Australia?
I don't know. I mean, do you remember coming up with the idea? Do you remember it coming into your mind?
Yeah, actually, I. Oh God, I've just remembered. Yeah, so the way that I actually initiated the idea of Australia is I started like a YouTube vlog. I know that sounds super cringy, and to be honest, it was. Um, but yeah, basically, I said sort of to the world, or not to the world, but to my friend group and my parents and everyone that I sort of knew publicly, I am going to do this, and I was going to make a video every week. This was whilst I was at university, by the way. I couldn't end up maintaining every week, but yeah, I was going to make a video every week counting down until the day that I was going to go. So I kind of made myself accountable for it. Like if I didn't do it, there was like a lot of pressure on me. I brought that on myself because I knew how much I wanted to do it and that I didn't want to wimp out of it if the day came. You know. So yeah, that's probably how I like initiated it.
So you sort of provided that public pressure of you set a deadline and you have to go really.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Literally.
So once you've got that in mind and you start doing these vlogs, Unfortunately, I too have have given vlogging a try to my cringe looking back. Um, so now you're sort of prepared to go. How long did it actually take before you set off, and what sort of things did you have to get ready?
Um, well, I had to get a load of stuff ready. Um, one thing that I didn't actually expect is that I needed less kit than I thought I would need. Like you do need a lot of kit, but there's some things that I initially took that I didn't actually end up needing that much. I don't know if I got lucky or whatever. So for example, one of those things is my waterproof clothing. I actually found that it more held me back. Um, the best thing to use, at least in my opinion, when cycling is like very quick drying stuff. So have like what's it, like nylon shorts? Is it nylon? I don't think it's nylon, but like not whatever's not cotton. You know what I mean? Lycra, literally like cycling lycra that just dries really quickly. But other than that, yeah, I did have to get a bunch of equipment ready. Obviously, like a lightweight tent. Obviously, um, like a mat, an inflatable mat. I took an inflatable one because they're lighter and less bulky. Yeah, just loads of stuff. I'm not going to list my whole kit because we'll be here all night, but but yeah, lots
Was
of
there
stuff.
anything that surprised you that you thought you'd need and then you sort of got rid of, or you come to a steep hill and it was time to throw it to the wind?
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, the waterproofs were like that because I had these full body length waterproof things. These like big, sort of really like really flappy, what do you call them, like ankle swingers, I don't know, just these really big trousers that I just didn't need at all, and every time I put them on it kept like catching on my chain, and I was still getting wet through it, and it was like sticking to my body. It was just literally terrible. It was terrible. So yeah, I just threw those to the wind and just ended up cycling in my shorts through the cold, because when you're cycling, your body keeps you warm anyway. It's like running. If you've ever done running, your body just stays hot because you're exercising.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. You only have to worry about it at night, I suppose. So when you're there, you set off from England. So where did you actually set off from, and how was that sort of as you first set off? What did it feel like, and what kind of stories did you have from the beginning?
Yeah, so setting off was pretty interesting. I literally set off from my front door, which I thought was a really cool moment, and yeah, something I'll never forget. I literally left my house without a key. Like, when do you ever leave your house without a key? Like, it's just so ridiculous. So just the length of time that I knew I was going to be out, like, yeah, just that mindset of like I'm not coming home. And my parents were actually next door at like a dinner party. Um, with the neighbors. So yeah, I went over there and I was like, "Hi guys, I'm gonna like cycle to Australia now." And they're like, "What?" Like, some of the people there didn't know, and they were like, "Is your," like, they were speaking to my parents like, "Is your son really doing this?" And they were like, "Yeah, yeah, he's going." Um, yeah, I remember I cycled off and I met the guys. So I actually went as a group of four. There were three other guys, Ryan, Tomaz, and Jamie. And actually, some of those guys hadn't met each other yet, so it was quite cool, like watching them interact and sort of meeting up with everybody and having a good chat and just, yeah, really getting to know everybody. Also, Jamie, I actually didn't know him before the trip. I met him only once before in a coffee shop. Um, so yeah, he just rung me up one day and was like, "Yo, dude, I've seen your seen your ad in the newspaper. I think my mum put something in the newspaper because she was like super excited, as was I. And yeah, I think he saw this ad and then somehow contacted me through my Facebook and called me, and was just like, dude, I want to come, but I don't have a bike." And I was like, "Yeah, well, just get a bike and just get some kit and come." And then he did. So yeah, I met him. Yeah, we cycled down through to Poole, I think, Bournemouth. So back down to Bournemouth, which is quite funny because that's the initial journey that sparked this whole idea off. Um, and yeah, from there just went over to France and literally cycled from there in more or less a straight line towards Singapore.
That's crazy. Did the four of you get all the way together? Did everyone last?
See, no, not at all. So the way that I prepared for this, actually, this podcast, is I wrote down a list of things that I expected and things that I didn't expect. And the list of things that I didn't expect is significantly longer, like significantly longer. And one of those things that I didn't expect is that I would be on my own for the last whole half of the trip. Um, yeah, Jamie was meant to be coming the whole way with me, but he ended up disappearing at around. Well, he left when I went to India. So yeah, literally about halfway through, had to come back
So
for family reasons.
so do you, thinking about it now, do you sort of like, was it a different experience being on your own? Did you sort of feel confident at that point in your cycle touring and you're okay, or was that just like a big shock for you to actually sort of like know that you had all the way rest of the way to go and it was sort of just you left with the idea really?
Um, yeah, so I always knew in my heart of hearts that I was going to do it anyway, like regardless of who was coming. And plus, you meet people whilst you're out there as well. So yeah, but no, I mean, it was like scary. I guess the most difficult part of it was just the knowledge that if you did get into a hairy situation, you don't have any backup. You know, like if something was to go wrong, it's just you. Like you are out there and there is no one else to help you through it, even like mentally. So it doesn't have to be like a physical situation, but one thing that I did feel was a lot of loneliness in like the second half, especially going through Myanmar or Burma, whichever you will. Because yeah, there's just not very many people there. I literally went something like 2 weeks without having a single conversation in English, and that can really get to you. Obviously I was speaking to people like on my phone in English and talking with my girlfriend, texting, that sort of thing. Yeah, like no physical interactions, human to human, in like solid English, which is obviously my native language. That gets hard. It like gets way harder than I thought it would, um, in terms of loneliness.
So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's a different dynamic of both. But is there some stories that stick with you? Like in I'm sure there's loads from both. How long did the trip take in the end, and what are some sort of things that stuck with?
Yeah, so the trip itself lasted exactly 365 days, which is kind of crazy. I think that I kind of knew I wanted it to last around a year, but having it land like literally exactly on the 365th day was quite like crazy. So yeah, it took a whole year exactly. Um, Also, some things that stuck with me. Um, I mean, there's like so many things. One thing that did kind of stick with me, is that it's gonna sound so cheesy, but like life really is like what you make it, I guess. I don't know. There's like so many people that won't do something that's out of their comfort zone out of fear, or out of like what other people are gonna think of them. But yeah, you just have to like overcome those like mental things and just go and do it. Another thing that I also kind of realized, this one's less cheesy. This one's kind of more of a real realization that actually is like really stuck with me. Um, is that there's a lot of people around the world that are really quite happy not doing very much. And the reason I say that is because in the Western world and in Western culture, I feel like it's a very common thing now to like display to the world how like busy you are or like how popular you are. It's like this sort of display of like I'm enough for society kind of thing. Um, and yeah, when I sort of left Europe or even getting to other parts of Europe, like um, further places away from England, or at least seemingly England, or outside of cities, yeah, there's a lot of people that are just sitting around drinking tea, not doing very much, but they're just super happy and they're just like living a relaxed life, and they're not caring about how busy they are compared to someone else, and that actually really hit home. Because yeah, I feel like a lot of my life I've kind of felt like I've got to achieve and just keep progressing, and if I'm not progressing, there's a problem. But it doesn't have to be like that. I don't know. I kind of went a bit deep on that point, but yeah, it really was something I noticed.
So it's interesting you say this is it's something I feel like I can relate to. When I first went traveling, I was sort of out in the sticks. I'd come from a place where I was actually trying to start a business in England, and
Mm,
as soon as I was out there, and I was sort of sitting still, like around a campfire or doing something that there wasn't a lot actually involved. I wasn't being very productive. I found that it took me a long time to get used to that. But once I got used to it, it
mm.
was it was full of joy. Like those moments where I'm not actually achieving something were really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. People don't realize it. People really don't, because I'm also trying to start a business, and it literally sometimes my brain goes back to those moments when I was like relaxing, not doing very much, and just taking in like the world. Like I kind of really miss that kind of feeling of just being able to relax and like having time. And I'm getting to this sort of point in my life now where, I mean, there are people younger than me that have a kid, right? Like, if I have a kid, what little time I have left is going to sort of diminish, and then I'm just going to be stuck in this sort of cycle. I know, again, that it doesn't have to be like that. You can always change up your lifestyle, do that kind of thing, but you end up with more responsibilities, more things keeping you trapped in the same loop. But yeah, I just always want to make sure I have time for myself and have time for my sort of mental state, I guess, and the world, not just constantly be chasing up leads or constantly, etc., etc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so do you think that the tour has left you with these lessons, left like these things stick in your mind, and you use them as you get older, and potentially you might get kids eventually, but do you think that will be stick with you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think it'll ever leave me. Um, some of the things, and also this kind of knowledge as well. That because yeah, this is another really quite interesting point actually. I used to really not like England, and I didn't know why I didn't like it. I just was like, oh, England's ugly. You kind of look at Instagram and you see all these like beautiful beaches or whatever. You kind of like compare England to it, and it's like a bit dreary here in winter, etc. But yeah, one thing that I really did gain from the trip is an appreciation of just England and how beautiful it is. Because when you have something, you kind of don't realize how beautiful that thing is until you kind of lose it or something changes and you're like, oh man, the things that I took for granted about that place or even that person, um, they just really pop out in your mind and you're like, wow, how have I not realized how beautiful the place is that I live? Um, I don't think it's that I didn't realize, but I just think I kind of forgot over time. And yeah, an appreciation for England definitely hasn't left me. And even in terms of literally in like a poverty sense as well. Like in terms of the fact that we do have access here to a lot more than some countries have, and people even take that for granted and they don't use that privilege. Um, and yeah, even that kind of sort of bugs me sometimes. Um, that people don't realize how privileged we are here, and yeah, I don't know. There's just lots of like realizations that I've taken from this trip.
So I'm guessing with all this stuff, it's interactions with people as you go. So let's talk about a bit of that because it's something that's always interests me
Mm.
as you go along on this year trip. Tell me a bit about some of the people you met and some of the sort of characters that stood out.
Um, okay, so looking at my list that I wrote of the things that I didn't expect, one of the things on that list is the fact that I didn't expect that there'd be so much variation in the people that I stayed with. So I'd never really done couch surfing before, but on this trip we downloaded the couch surfing app and started like looking for hosts on certain nights. We probably camped most nights, but yeah, when we were staying in cities and stuff, we'd always find a couch surf. Um, and yeah, the variation was crazy. We stayed with like really young people. I think at one point we stayed with a bunch of uni students, went out partying and all that. And then like the next week, um, or sorry, the week before, we stayed with like this older lady that was really into jazz, and she was showing us all of her favorite music and talking to us about like the history of her town and how it like played a part in the war and all this stuff. So yeah, it was a real learning experience with absolutely everyone we stayed with. Like every single person, there was like something new to learn. Um, so yeah, man, it's just it's almost overwhelming, but it's just beautiful and yeah, incredible.
So what sense did you get as a whole? I mean, people talk about kindness on the road. Like, did you have a mixture of good and bad, or was it mostly good? What did you get?
Um, it was mostly good. It was mostly good, and I'm going to take this opportunity to like delve into a bit of a story as well because it's kind of crazy. Because yeah, that last answer I kind of skipped over all of the like the depth of the interactions because obviously each interaction was like super deep and like you're introduced into this person's house and you smell their house and you see how clean it is and adopt their customs and stuff. So yeah, it was generally good, but there was this one very bad experience, which I'm totally going to delve into right now because it is crazy. In Georgia, which is this is obviously not America, Georgia. This is the country between Russia and Turkey, so around that area. We stayed with this guy called Besso. We met him in a pub, and everybody was like, "Yeah, yeah, stay with this guy. He's super nice. He's super nice." And to be fair, for the first night, he was super nice. He was like pretty fun. He had his own wine. He'd been like I don't know how do you make wine, like brew it. He was like brewing his own wine, and it was made out of like oranges and grapes and all sorts. And he kept drinking it on the first night, and he kept wanting to us to get drunk. So that first night we did get pretty drunk. And then the next day we woke up pretty late, so we thought, screw it, we're just going to stay here another night. And this is where things went really downhill because he kept drinking. Like, he just didn't stop. He woke up and was like still smashing back his wine over and over and just kept getting us to drink. At this point, we were like, no, no more, no more. But he just kept getting worse and worse. And by this point, it was already too late as well to leave. Like, it was getting dark. And we were still like miles from a town. So yeah, this guy, he started like getting really aggressive because we wouldn't drink. But not just aggressive. He was like excited. It was like excited aggression. Like, he started smashing things and like screaming his own name, and it got really weird. And then he started like looking at my friend. My friend is this really tall. Let me just paint a picture of this guy for you because he's pretty cool. If Jamie ever listens to this, because at this point as well, it was only me and Jamie. But if Jamie ever listens to this, this is only meant in a beautiful way because he is a beautiful man. But he's like really tall, really dark, like quite dark skinned at this point. He was like really tanned. His skin tans really well. He's wearing these like pineapple sunglasses with like long dreads, beach shorts. He looks like he's just come off the freaking beach. He looks like someone that would sell you a surfboard. So this Besso guy, super drunk, he starts like dancing with my friend Jamie here, and starts sort of trying to like touch him a lot, like saying, "Ooh, exotic!" Like you're exotic, this sort of thing. And then I was just like, "Dude, we need to go to bed. This guy's getting out of hand. He's getting crazy." So I went upstairs and left him just for a little while. I knew he was going to come up soon. Yeah, so literally 10 minutes later, I hear some like commotion downstairs. He comes upstairs and gets in bed. At this point, I'm like, I'm falling asleep, so I don't really say anything. And then I wake up like half an hour later, and all I hear from across the room is Jamie going, "No, no, no." So I look over, and Besso is like fully naked, climbing onto Jamie, trying to get like in bed with him, and Jamie literally jumps up and like pushes this guy away, like pushes him into the wall. And then literally Jamie ran away in the house, and zipped himself up in his sleeping bag, and literally hid from this guy so that he wouldn't get found, and then slept like under the stairs or something. It was super weird, super creepy. And yeah, it turns out that guy after that, um, he went into his like wife's room, and oh man, it was just super weird. And then we just had to leave in the morning, like super early. It just got out of control, dude, out of control.
So did you, in the morning, did you manage to escape before he was awake, or did you have sort of an awkward
Yeah.
conversation together?
No, we left before he was awake. Oh yeah, by the way, this guy couldn't even speak English. Like the whole time we weren't speaking English or anything to him. It was just entirely body language, and the only word that he seemed to know was exotic. But yeah, when we woke up in the morning as well, his wife had like fled into town, and only the granddad was left in the house. So yeah, the granddad, he kind of tried to explain to us that the wife had run away in the night. So yeah, I have no idea what happened, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty glad that we got out of there, to be honest, man.
So you're caught up in some family drama during your trip.
Yeah. Oh man, it was more than that. It was super strange. I think that Besso guy has some I don't know. he's got some like internal stuff going on. I'm not sure he's so happy with his wife. Maybe he needs a guy.
So
I don't know. Who knows?
That was a fantastic story. I'm conscious of the time. Is there anything more you want to add, or a little story you want to slip in before we come to an end?
Yeah, sorry, man. I didn't know. I didn't know how long this was going to be or anything. So I've totally just taken up all the time with that story. But it is probably one of the craziest ones. I mean, there was some guy that was trying to teach me karate when I was alone in Myanmar. There was all sorts of like weird stuff that happened. I could delve into all sorts of little pockets of the trip. But one other thing that I will quickly mention, is another pretty fun story. Is right at the end of the trip, right at the end. literally the furthest most or sorry, what is it, like the southernmost point of Singapore. Oh no, not Singapore. Where is it? Like the southernmost point of the mainland before it goes to Singapore. There's this like park, like like with a monument on it, and it kind of says, you have reached the southernmost point of the mainland. And I think I turned up to this place like 5 minutes before it was about to close. So yeah, I pull up there. The guy at the gates, the security guard, he just doesn't let me in at all. He's like, "Nope, you ain't coming in, boy." And I was obviously really upset. So I waited for ages, and then sort of snuck into the place to get this photo of this monument. Right. I just waited for ages, and then yeah, I ran up to this monument, got the picture, and as I started packing my stuff away, the guy came out and started chasing me out. And I literally looked back at him and just shouted, "You know what's good about life? Is the good guys always win." And it was like a film moment. I was just like cycling away on my bike, like, "Woo! I'm out of here." So yeah, that was another pretty crazy moment, and it just really topped off the trip. It was like the icing on the cake, just this crazy final moment. But yeah, there were so many things, dude. So many.
I mean, there's so many things I want to ask now. I'm sort of left with wanting to hear more stories. We're kind of coming to a close. I usually aim for about half an hour. But is there any links or your Instagram or the charity that you support that you want to mention that people can find you on?
Yeah. I mean, first thing I'll say is go and check out the Trinity homeless projects, because they're the people that I did this trip for. I mean, obviously I did it for me, but as as like a thing tied in, I wanted to do it for charity. So yeah, I found this awesome charity called Trinity Homeless Projects, and they do a bunch of like sleep outs, and kind of these really like visual ways to show like the effects that homelessness has on people and that kind of thing. And they also like not rehabilitate, but like I don't know what's the best like word here. They reintegrate people into society, but in like a really good, healthy way. Like they're not just like throwing money at homeless people. They're like genuinely helping homeless people, which is an issue that kind of touches my heart a little bit. So yeah, check out Trinity Homeless Projects. And if you do want to follow me, look for Hack is Out There. That's HACK is Out There, all one word, on Instagram. And you can scroll back. I posted like a diary of the trip. So if people are interested, they can totally check it out there. Don't look at my YouTube channel. Those videos are so cringe. Just don't do it. There's no videos on YouTube of the trip, just the vlogs beforehand. So yeah, definitely don't check those out.
Well, Ed, it's been fantastic to chat to you. I will be heading straight to your YouTube after we finish this podcast.
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it.
It's been great to have you on. If there's an opportunity to tell stories, maybe we can do another one in future.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know like what to say about the trip because it's obviously so massive. Like it was a whole year of experiences and different stories, and I've only delved into some like very tiny parts of it. So yeah, man, it'd be awesome to talk again.
Sounds good. See you later.
See you later, man. See you later. Bye bye.